Hi, welcome back to Movie Review Mom. I'm the mom and I do the movie reviews. My goal is to give you the heads up on filmmaking quality and content so you can make the best decision for yourself and your family as to whether or not you want to spend time and money watching a specific movie. Well, that is definitely the case with this film. The movie I'm reviewing today is called Escape Room: Tournament of Champions. This psychological action thriller is available in theaters and some VOD platforms on July 16th, 2021. It's rated PG-13 and it's a quick 1 hour and 28 minutes. So is it worth your time? Well, let me give you an overview in a nutshell, and then I'll point out things I liked and didn't like, as well as tips for parents, themes worth talking about, and even give you some recommendations for other films that you might like if you like this one too. So, in a quick nutshell, this is the sequel to the very first Escape Room, which was a movie that I actually thought was pretty fresh and fun. If you saw and liked the first one that came out in 2019, you'll probably like this one because it's basically more of the same. Although I think this one is much more inferior in many ways. And I'll get into that in just a minute. In this installment in the franchise, six people unwittingly find themselves locked in another series of escape rooms, quickly uncovering the fact that they're all survivors from other escape room games. So, joining forces with two of the original survivors from the first movie, they get killed off one at a time until dun dun dun. I don't want to give you any spoilers. This movie is directed by Adam Robitel. So let me tell you about some of the things I liked. First of all, the introduction of the film shows clips from the very first escape room movie, just to kind of remind you of what happened and who survived and some of the scoop of that. The film picks up a short time after the first movie, not too much longer. And unfortunately, the movie starts off pretty slowly. There are those quick clips that kind of start to build the excitement, and then it turns into nothing for about 20 minutes. So that's sort of depressing. If you love solving puzzles and mysteries, you're probably going to get a kick out of this movie, but I'm going to tell you more about that in just a second, too. The first film was marketed as a horror type of a thriller, but this movie is much less gruesome and less horrific, maybe because you kind of are mentally prepared for everybody to die off. I don't know. It just didn't seem that bad, but there's a reason why, and I'll tell you more about that in a second. The cast includes Taylor Russell and Logan Miller from the first movie, as well as the new additions who are India Moore, Holland Roden, Isabel Furman, Carlito Olivero, and Thomas Cockerell. It's suspenseful and you definitely feel some tension with almost nonstop action. The movie flies by really quickly. And then there's a twist. I love twists. So let me tell you about some of the things I didn't like because that list is much longer. First of all, I think it helps to have seen the first movie to really understand more about the two main characters as well as the villains and kind of what's going on. Sadly, there's no character arc at all for the characters, and even for the ones that we met before in the last movie. So the movie kind of seems pointless. There's so much overacting and screaming. None of the characters are very appealing or even interesting. We just don't learn anything about them. So it makes it really hard to care whether or not any of them survive, live, or die. Doesn't matter. That's not good. I don't want to give away any spoilers on this part either, but I was really happy when the very first person died because they were easily my least favorite character. And I just instantly was like, oh, brother. So sorry for the person who played that role. Sometimes it's hard to understand what people are saying because they're either yelling or mumbling. So that's frustrating. Maybe people said something brilliant and I just didn't hear it, but I don't think so. It would have been way better if each of the characters had a special set of skills. So that would force them to actually listen to each other and help. Instead, they often just yell, "Listen to her," referring to Zoe Davis, who's played by Taylor Russell, who is clearly the smartest person in the room, in every room, and solves everything every time. The clues fly fast and furiously. And in fact, people figure out clues so fast and race off to the next one before you've even had the satisfaction of mulling it over in your brain to feel smarter than the characters because you figured it out already. They're just like ridiculously fast at solving these clues that make no sense at all. The action scenes where all of the characters are just screaming and running around are just too frenzied. And again, it's hard to hear the clue and have time to even think about it before they're off racing around doing something else. There really isn't any plot. There's nothing that really propels the story forward other than they have to survive the room and then they get into another room and instantly it's frenzy chaos. Again, there's no really big payoff in the end that leaves the audience satisfied. There's terrible dialogue, and I'll give you some examples of some of the lines here in just a second. The musical score is mostly annoying with pounding sounds and screeches. Some of the clues and details make no sense at all. One example is a scene where there's acid rain melting on metal and everything in its path, but for some reason, an umbrella is able to protect one of the characters from death. The villain is faceless, which could be fun if done well, kind of like in the first movie, but in this one, it's just annoying. And yes, the movie ends with a tease for yet another sequel. So comment down below if that is anything that you're interested in seeing. Unfortunately, the movie is extremely forgettable. There were no standout moments that made me excited to watch them again. And that's usually the mark of a really good movie, when I instantly want to watch the movie again. And I didn't feel like there were any moments that made me feel like that at all, unfortunately. Let me give you some tips for parents because the movie is rated PG-13. Obviously, people die and are in perilous situations during the entire movie. There's one F bomb, and one of the characters is a scumbag thief. So, some positive themes that you could make out in the movie are choices, friendship, loyalty, wit. And yes, it's another female empowerment movie because every movie is these days. All right. So I mentioned that I would share some lame lines with you, and you can see my full movie review online at moviereviewmom.com. But I'll share just a few of them with you right now. One is, well, these are some of the types of excellent writing in this film. When Zoe yells, "There has to be a connection." And then when Ben Miller yells, "I'm not going to make it." And then when Brianna yells, "No, no, no." And when Rachel yells, "Hurry." One line actually made me laugh was when Ben Miller's character early on in the movie says, "It's just the last few weeks I've really enjoyed not dying," when Zoe's talking about, we got to solve this problem. And then there's this therapist, and she says probably the most poignant lines of the movie when she's in therapy with Zoe. And she says, "Everything you see reinforces your existing beliefs, creating an endless loop." And I think that's actually true. In this movie, there's sort of a double entendre about what that means. But if you could pull any wisdom out of the movie, that would be it, that our perception isn't always necessarily reality. All right, so you want to know what movie review mom grade I'm giving this? I'm giving it a D for it was just kind of dumb and mostly disappointing. I was kind of looking forward to the sequel and hoping for something bigger and better, but it was just a frenzied mess in the end. All right, so before we go, let me give you some recommendations for a few other movies. Well, a couple other movies that are similar. Well, one's extremely similar because the first one I'm recommending is the first movie, The Escape Room. If you haven't seen it, then you should see that one before you see the sequel and maybe skip the sequel. And then another one that I didn't think was a great movie, but it was sort of similar. It gave me kind of a similar vibe, is Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. I was disappointed with that one because I grew up watching the TV show Fantasy Island. And so this one was very different from that. But again, there's sort of some twists and some survival stuff. I don't know. Just I thought of it as I was watching this movie. All right, that's it for my review. I hope if you watch this movie, you get a kick out of it. And if you don't, well, I give you the heads up. Be sure and come back to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and click on that little bell because it'll tell you every time I have a new movie review out or a trailer reaction. And I really do want to save you time and money. There have been some great movies that have come out this year, and also some ones that I've been given D's and F's to. So I don't want you to waste your money on those. All right, that's it. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.